We now turn our attention to boxing and the Day of Reckoning card coming up on the 23rd of December 2023, being held as part of Riyadh season in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. There's a lot going on. It's a very big card. There's a lot of fights. I'm going to try and touch as many of the fights as possible, just say a quick bit on all of them, and obviously I'm going to come on to the more interesting fights at the end. Anthony Joshua versus Wallin is of interest. For betting purposes, there's a lot of different angles in that one. That's the main one I'm interested, but there's also some other interesting ones in there. So let's just run through the ones that aren't interesting. There's a lot of short price favourites who we expect to win. Hergovich versus Mori. Hergovich, we know he's very good. Hasn't been that impressive recently. Didn't look too good against Dempsey McKean, got the job done. Obviously Zhang, some people thought Zhilei Zhang beat him, but he has a lot of good attributes. He's got a good reach, he's got good height, he's very strong, he's very well schooled, and everyone knows he's a serious proposition in the heavyweight division, and he's in line for a title shot at some point. So Mark Mori, he fought David Haye in 2016 on a card, quite a famous card that was shown in the UK. He didn't do much in that fight. Haye put him away quickly. He didn't show much in that fight. That is a good few years ago now, 6-7 years ago. I don't know how he's got this fight. His promoter must be doing a lot of work on the phone to get him this fight, but on this big stage in Saudi. But if you look at the odds, you've got Hergovich 1-40 as the strong favourite. The draw 33-1. Mark Mori 18-1. I'm not going to spend too long on this. Hergovich will win this fight. Probably win it early. First 3 rounds, certainly no more than 6. Just the levels that they operate are totally different, and it'll just be an easy sparring session for Hergovich, and he'll get that done. 1-40 is not really much interest to us betting wise. Even if you put that in an accumulator, you're not going to get far. You might look for Hergovich by KO. Some of these fights, they haven't even put out the method of victory odds yet, so all you've got is the outright. But it's not going to be great anyway, so we'll move on from that one. Hergovich very likely to win that one. Other fights, Joe Opetaia versus Zoro. Opetaia has recently just shown how dangerous he is, the way he dispatched Jordan Thompson in short time. An aggressive, barbaric performance. One of the most aggressive fighters in the sport at the minute. And one of the, he's one of the fighters everyone's looking towards for entertainment. Comes forward, doesn't play around, very confident. And there's a mean intent to his work. Zoro pretty much just fought at British level. So it's going to be a case of levels in this one, I would have thought. Unless Zoro really steps up and takes his moment on the big stage and produces a lot more than he's shown in the past, we expect Joe Opetaia to win that one. Likely to be a stoppage as well. The odds on the fight, Opetaia 1-20. The draw 25-1. Zoro 10-1. Again, there's not much going on in the way of value in those odds. 1-20 Opetaia is likely to win, but there's nothing really much to say from a betting standing point. We've got Frank Sanchez versus Junior Farr. You've got Sanchez 1-12, resounding favourite. You've got the draw 28-1. Junior Farr 11-1. And Junior Farr's useful. The only 2 losses on his record are Joseph Parker, a former world champion, and the other one I think is Lucas Brown. And Lucas Brown, he's been around a very long time and he's getting on. He's known for his punch power, really impressive punch power. And I'm going to mention him again later on in regards to another fight, the Miller-Dubois fight. He'll be relevant. But, he's lost to those 2. Other than that, he's done pretty well, mainly fighting in his native country. We expect Sanchez to win this fight. Sanchez is very well schooled, based in Miami, Florida. I remember him beating stopped Carlos Negron. And has had a few decent performances. He hasn't really had the opportunities. It could be for a commercial reason. He's got a lot of ability. He's ranked highly in the top 10. And he should be one of the fighters that is in the conversation for a title shot. He's very skillful. He's very compact. He's got a very good defence. The only issue he has is probably a reach issue and a height issue. He's not the tallest. But his skills certainly make up for that issue in the heavyweight division, and I expect him to beat Junior Farr. 1-12 the odds, not much to talk about, not much value, not that interesting. So we'll move on from that one as well. Next one, looking at short odds, we've got Wilder Parker. Wilder 2-9. The draw 25-1. Joseph Parker 9-2. A lot of people are saying Parker will give Wilder problems. The narrative is that Wilder's one of the biggest punchers of all time. Huge right hand, and we've seen it in action. It's a beautiful thing, but Parker has a bit more boxing skills. He can hustle you. He's got a high work rate. Well, when he fought Joshua, when he was a champion, he was a WBO champion. He did have a high work rate. He was really impressive, and he does have a lot of experience, you know. But since then, he's got a bit older. Joe Joyce stopped him recently, but he put in a great performance in that fight. Parker left it all in the ring. He still put on a good show, but Joe Joyce was too strong in that particular fight. Is Parker going to be able to out-hustle and out-skill Wilder and sort of use his experience on him? He's fought at a very high level against very good fighters, you know, highly ranked fighters. Dillian Whyte, Joe Joyce. He's fought Hughie Fury a long time ago. I think that was a title fight. You know, he's well schooled, so he could give Wilder problems. But the thing about Wilder is, sometimes I don't think people give him enough credit. He doesn't look like the most skillful boxer. He's not dancing around the ring like Mayweather or Tyson Fury. But he knows how to work to his strengths. He has a dangerous right hand, and he knows how to set it up. That fight he had against Luis Ortiz, I think the second fight, Luis Ortiz was winning the fight quite easily, using his skills, southpaw stance. We all know about Luis Ortiz, good schooling. Wilder just waited it out. He let Ortiz win the fight, and when he detonated the right hand, I think it was possibly the 7th round, Luis Ortiz went to sleep, and it was a shattering knockout. And Wilder just waited. He was never worried, down on points on the cards. He wasn't trying to win a boxing match, in inverted commas, in terms of technique. He was trying to knock him out. That was all he came to do. And he detonated. I think he'll work Parker out. Parker isn't that tricky. Should be able to find him. Should be able to make contact, and should be able to bring the bout to a decisive end. If Parker's able to drag it out, I would have thought Wilder may drop him or may catch him with some good shots. Even if Parker is difficult to work out and keeps it rangy, gets Wilder using his feet and makes it difficult for him to land, I still think the second half of the fight Wilder will get through. Wilder 2-9. You can throw that in an accumulator if necessary. Wilder by KO 3-10. I think an interesting odds in that fight, it's not massive odds, but Wilder around 7-12 for the stoppage is 2-1. And I thought that was interesting because I can imagine Wilder just taking his time, entertaining a little bit, maybe having a few problems with Parker. Parker, very tricky, very experienced, fought at a high level, but then he figures it out and lands his right hand at some point, and that's the end of the fight. So Wilder 7-12, 2-1's interesting. Wilder 2-9 outright, or 3-10 useful for an accumulator. It's not great odds, but it will bulk up the odds a little bit, and I think it's worth putting in. Some of these odds are so short on the short favours, it's not worth bothering with, because things happen in boxing, and when you're betting on, I've seen 1-40 for Hergovich. There's no point bothering. You never know, he might slip over or something, or gets injured. You know, it's not worth bothering. At least you've got to get something worthwhile. 2-9. You can actually add a little bit of bulk to an accumulator odds. We move on to Dubois Miller. Daniel Dubois resounding favourite 2-7. The draw 22-1. Jarrell Miller 4-1. Jarrell Miller had a lot to say at the press conference. Got into an altercation by his own design with Anthony Joshua, trying to get his name out there. But looking at this fight, it offers a lot. Dubois just came out of that fight with Usyk. It was an interesting fight. He had his moments, contentious belt shot, or, you know, low blow is what it was given as. And then Usyk given a lot of time to recover, but he did all right in the fight. There was people saying that he quit later on, but he probably thought that he should have had it won when he landed that body shot. But the decision was given against him, and later on, people are saying he quit after a jab from Usyk. There's question marks about his, stickability. He had problems against Kevin Lerena not long ago. His last fight with Shane McGuigan in the corner, dropped against someone who most people hadn't heard of. He got it done in the end, but getting dropped at that level early on is not a good sign. And then we've got the Joe Joyce fight where people question whether he quit. I think he was under a lot of heavy artillery in that fight. And if you saw how vicious that fight was and the blows that they were landing, dropping to his knee in the round he did. You know, people saying it looks like a quit. If you're fighting at this level under that sort of pressure, you know, the amount of abuse you're taking from someone like Joe Joyce, I mean, dropping to your knee, it's not the worst thing in the world, but that's what it's been made out to be. But yeah, there's question marks there about Dubois' stickability and, you know, quitting potential. Miller, he comes on, he's heavy-handed. He comes in very heavy usually, and because he's heavy, he's not going to do well over the long distance. Dubois will do well over a long fight. His stamina's pretty good. Unless he's been buzzed a few times, you don't really worry about that issue where he might, you know, the quit word comes in. But I think the problem here, Jarrell Miller's very aggressive. I've watched this fight against Lucas Brown, who we talked about earlier. And Lucas Brown is a big puncher early on. You know, he's not the most beautiful fighter to look at in terms of his footwork and technique, but he can bang. He's got power in those hands of his, and if he lands anything, it hurts. He got through to Miller a couple of times, but Miller got rid of him being the younger fighter. I think, you know, Brown's in his 40s now. Miller came through and steamrolled him. The thing that could happen here is if Miller takes on Dubois, and in his mind he looks at Dubois as a quitter, and, you know, he goes through him with everything he's got. He has a lot of artillery. He just, you know, lets go of the right and left to the body. This is what he did against Brown. You know, he can sustain and do big damage. So the bets that you look at here, you know, if you're going on skill level and experience, you obviously go for Dubois. Miller hasn't really fought at the level Dubois has. Dubois fought good fighters, you know. Miller could get this done by knockout. That's something that you have to consider. He's 4-1. Just looking at the odds, because obviously when we're doing boxing betting, we like to look at the odds. It's slightly interesting. They haven't released the prices for the stoppage, the method of victory prices, but Miller by stoppage is an interesting bet. Miller on the outright by any method is 4-1. I think you've got to consider that. I think that could be a shock on this card. And if you look at the energy Miller's brought, he's the one people are talking about at the press conference. Obviously, he's been convicted as a drugs cheat, but he's looked past that now. He's been allowed to continue, and the type of person he is calling out Joshua. He's looking for that big fight against Joshua or whoever, and he's making a lot of noise. I think he's coming with a lot of intent. This is two very different personalities. Dubois has a very good mentality at the moment, particularly with Don Charles in the corner. The attitude he took into the Usyk fight was a good one, and I think he works well with Don Charles. So he's coming with a good attitude as well. I think that one there could be fireworks in that fight. I think Dubois 2-7. Looking at the odds, you could look at it and say Dubois likely to win, fought at a higher level, powerful, dynamite Dubois, of course. But 2-7, it looks too short to me. I'd be looking towards Miller on that one, and I'm going to have an accumulator at the end with a few options where I've gone for the underdog, taking the value. And that's a fight. I think if Miller throws everything at Dubois for 6 rounds, I think he could stop him. So that's my view on that fight. We've got Bivol versus Arthur. Should have mentioned this one earlier as one of the shorter price one. Bivol 1-16, the draw 25-1, Lyndon Arthur 10-1. Lyndon Arthur, that very big win over Anthony Yarde. I think it was during COVID. I think he won with the jab pretty much. Yarde wasn't aggressive in that fight. Yarde got his revenge in the rematch, stopping Lyndon Arthur early on. Yarde's got a very good jab, but fighting against Bivol, who's beaten Canelo, is an unbeaten world champion and one of the best fighters in the sport. It's going to be very difficult, and the odds suggest that. We expect Bivol to win 1-16, but don't count Arthur out in terms of the betting, because looking at it just straight up, you'd say, oh, listen, stop talking about this, Bivol's winning this fight, and he likely will. But when you see, what I'm looking at here is the draw, 25-1. If Arthur's very good tactically, he's very good at keeping things at range. So is Bivol. Bivol's an incredible tactician. Strange things happen in boxing. I'm obviously leaning on that sort of scenario here. A big surprise, a big upset. You know, we have them all the time. Jordan Gill's just beaten Michael Conlon. Ngannou put on an amazing show against Fury and dropped him. Things happen in boxing, you know. Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson. The list is, you can list so many. Andy Ruiz and Joshua. If Arthur sticks to his game plan, works the jab and stays defensive, doesn't take too many chances, he trains hard, comes in with good stamina and endurance. Obviously, there's a lot of caveats here. Arthur's got to do a lot. Don't be surprised if it goes the distance. Don't be surprised if it goes the distance. So you could I was going to say look at Bivol on points, but there's no point. He's 1 to 60 and the odds aren't going to be great. But just consider, if Arthur puts in a good position and it's close, the draw at 25 to 1 could come into play. I'm not saying this as a big pick. I'm just looking for value here. Maybe tell me if I'm fishing. I'm probably fishing a bit too much. Someone of Bivol's calibre who beaten Canelo of all people, the cash cow of the sport. I just think it's a possibility, and it's a small possibility. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying have a big bet on it. It's 25 to 1. Put a few shekels on it. Don't go mad. You know, just put, as I always say, on the ones you're not sure about, just put a little amount. And if you win, it's happy days. If you lose, you're not going to miss that money. So it's just a little bit of interest. 25 to 1. Put some small change on it. See what happens. We'd like expect Bivol to win, of course, but I think if Arthur makes it difficult and earns points with that jab, stays defensive, doesn't take any risks. I mean, I don't really see Bivol. Bivol will open up with speed of punches. He'll open a barrage on Arthur at some point. But Arthur's very good defensively. And he'll be expecting to come into that fight with Pat Barrett in the corner. He's got a lot of experience. As I say, he's beaten Anthony Yard. He could pull up something interesting there. But of course, we're expecting Bivol to win 1 to 16 on that one. So, I think we've run through all of them. Oh, Makhmudov, Kabayel. Got so many fights on here. Makhmudov, 1 to 8. The draw, 22 to 1. Kabayel, 7 to 1. I mean, Makhmudov, very tall, very strong. 18 wins, no losses. I saw him drop Takam in the first round in his fight. I think he went on to win on points. Takam was very dogged in that fight. Takam, a hard man to beat, very strong. Stood up to Makhmudov, and Makhmudov couldn't get rid of him. But he did stop him early, and that was impressive. He's very strong. I just think Kabayel is too slow. Hasn't fought at the level Makhmudov's fought of. Makhmudov's been very active lately. Kabayel, not as active. Kabayel's best victory is probably Zoro. That's back in 2017. That's quite a while ago. Makhmudov, 6 foot 5.5 inches, long reach, very strong, and a lot to prove. I think he's coming with a lot of good energy and a lot of aspirations in the sport. So I think Makhmudov will win that fight. I mean, he's 1 to 8. Could be put into an accumulator. It's not that much of a tiny price. And I would look for Makhmudov via KO. The odds aren't out yet. Look out for them. Maybe you'll get a 1 to 5 or a 1 to 6. I don't know. Can put that into an accumulator. And then we come on to the main one. It's taken a long time to get there. Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. Very interesting fight. Anthony Joshua, 2 to 7. The draw, 22 to 1. Otto Wallin, 100 to 30. Joshua is one of the most interesting fighters in the division at the moment. He's not been operating at the best level. Recently fighting Franklin. Recently fighting Robert Helenius. That's not really his level. And his team have obviously taken time with him. And they've put him into a challenge in this one, though. I'd view this as a step up on his recent opponents since the 2 Usyk losses. Otto Wallin, the man who some would say beat Tyson Fury, got that cut. And remember, Wallin was rubbing his glove in Fury's cut, trying to make it bleed more and get the stoppage. I mean, he really showed a will to win and was prepared to even, border on the rules of the sport to get the win. Really big intent there. And he looked really confident at the press conference, smiling. He thinks this is his opportunity. He thinks it's his day of reckoning. And a lot of people think that his good footwork, good ring craft, good defensively, solid all round. He's not powerful. We haven't seen him, knock out people with one punch power very often. But he's got a great technique. Coming off that win over Murat Gassiev, who's a very capable fighter, coming up from cruiserweight, had a good fight with Usyk once in that tournament that the Sauerlands were running. Wallin comes into this with good energy. Joshua, he needs to show what he can do. He needs to use his combinations. He needs to use his power. He needs to kind of relax, let his hands go. Use his attributes work when he's free, when he's thinking all defensively and trying to be a good boxer. He don't really play out. Thankfully, Wallin isn't a big banger, so he has got time. And I think Joshua will take time in this fight to settle into the fight, start with a defensive outlook. That's been his style lately. He hasn't really been letting the hands go. But if he can get to the middle rounds and then start showing some confidence and let those fantastic combinations and power go, then Wallin's going to have problems. I think, looking at the odds, AJ is too short, going by his recent form and recent performances. Wallin 100 to 30. I mean, yeah, that price sounds. They could have. I mean, they haven't been very generous there, the bookies. They couldn't even give us 4 to 1. looking at the outcome and forgetting the odds, I think Wallin has a shot. AJ should be getting rid of him, but will he? We don't know. If it goes to points, they're likely to side with AJ. We know how boxing works. He's the cash king of the heavyweight division. So, you know, they're not going to see him lose a close decision. But Wallin will know that, so Wallin will be pressing the action. They fought in the amateurs. I think Joshua beat him in the amateurs. They know each other. There's a comfort level there. They know each other's attributes. That might help AJ. You know, it might make him more comfortable. He knows him. But it will also help Otto Wallin. He's got experience fighting this man. Wallin fancies it. You can see it. Everyone knows at the press conference Otto Wallin fancies this fight. I don't know what way this will go, but I think it's a lot closer than the odds suggest. The interesting odds I've seen, the draw 22-1. I like these fights where you've got someone who's a dangerous chance, like Otto Wallin, and then it goes to points. And then say he's ahead, or it's visible that he's ahead to everybody. They'll give the draw to save the cash king, or they might even give the decision to Joshua, which ruins everything, but they do sometimes give them as a draw. So I'd look at the draw 22-1. I'd look at Otto Wallin to win by stoppage, round 7-12, 7-2. If Joshua gets tired and gasses, there's a chance that Wallin could creep up on him with his output. And the way he moves around the ring, throwing shots from different angles, Joshua tiring, I think that's a possibility. And then you've also got Wallin if you want to go later. If Joshua tires, you can get Wallin rounds 9-12 at 22-1. I think that's a great odd with odds for a small stake interest bet. I wouldn't go mad with it, but that could happen. By all means, those of you that are happy with AJ just winning straightforward, 2-7 is fine for an accumulator. I just like to veer on the side of the value, and I just think Wallin is being a little bit. I think the bookies know 100-30, so it's just above 3-1. They haven't given great odds. They seem to know. Wallin's a live threat in that fight. I'll be looking in that direction. I don't know what way it will go. If AJ shows up, he could blast him out, you know. But I'm going to look towards Wallin. So having gone through all of that, I've done an accumulator just for interest on the whole event. I'm going to go just an outright market. I haven't got the method of victory odds because these bookies haven't put them out yet. I'm going to go for Wallin, Miller, Wilder and Makhmudov. That is 18, just over 18-1. So that's some nice juicy odds for an interesting night. You can watch a few of the fights and see how it goes. Please give me your comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I've spotted some good value, or let me know if you think I'm mad. Have I got carried away looking for the underdog too often? It's going to be amazing. Really enjoy it. Give your comments. Let us know what you think. And we'll see how it goes on the 23rd of December, the day of reckoning. Take care for now and see you next time.